everyone, and welcome to another episode of GodSaw's Turnbuckle, the wrestling podcast here on YouTube and on Daily Motion for the time being. Like I said, I am working on a couple of other areas I want to go to. We've just got a couple of other things to get done first before I can put my efforts into actually working on getting this podcast into other realms. But this episode of GodSaw's Turnbuckle is going to focus around Impact Wrestling on June the 1st, 2017. And, we had a relatively decent show, I thought. For the most part. Just a couple of things here and there that I wasn't the biggest fan of. But we'll go off and start right at the beginning of the show. You had the beginning of the show with EC3 coming out right off the bat. And he was basically having a celebration about being number one contender. He had his barbershop quartet out there again in the ring, everything in that sense. They sung a couple of songs, a few of them off key about being number one contender and everything in that sense. They were a little bit off key there, but eventually, through all of this talk and cutting a promo about being the number one contender for Lashley and the Impact World Title, eventually this brings out Alberto El Patron. He doesn't say anything during this segment because immediately afterwards, Bruce Pritchard, Karen Jarrett, Tyrus, and kind of the entire committee comes out, and Bruce Pritchard says there's consequences for what EC3 had done. Yes, you're going to get a match with Alberto El Patron. Okay, you're going to fight, and the GFW World Title is going to be on the line. Woo, the GFW World Title. But also, your number one contendership was going to be on the line. That's basically his consequence, that he has to put up his number one contendership inside of a 6 sides of steel cage match. So, yeah. That's how they're just going to go off and do it. Now, right, with the aspect of everything, yeah, you had to get Alberto El Patron a shot at the number one contendership. Obviously, they didn't just throw him into the match last week for whatever reason in that sense. So they make it as a punishment for what EC3 had done to Bruce Pritchard a few weeks ago, and everything in that sense. The segment itself was fine. I thought it came off pretty decent, and you got a 6 sides of steel match out of it. And again, I'm not the biggest fan of always doing stipulation matches as much as they do, which they did here as well, and I'll talk about the no DQ match and how I felt about that a little bit later. But it came off. This segment came off rather well. Up next, you had Eli Drake going up against Moose. This was for the Impact Grand Championship. Again, there's no rhyme or reason behind the number one contendership for the Grand Championship. It's just that you have matches with Moose and the Grand Championship is on the line. They had different judges than your typical just guys who were sitting there. They ended up being Bruce Pritchard, Scott D'Amore, and Dutch Mantel. They were the judges for the match. Of course, this goes to a full-on decision. The match itself, I thought, was rather decent. You had pretty much Eli Drake trying to work over the knee for the most part of the match, and you also had Moose trying to play catch-up at any given point in time. Eli Drake pretty much dominated most of the first round, and a good chunk of the second, most of the second round, but Moose gains control in the end, so the judges give it to Moose in that one, so it kind of plays up a little bit of controversy of why are they against Eli Drake or something in that sense, and they play that up at the end when they declare Moose the winner of the match, 2 rounds to 1, and of course Eli Drake kind of gets in the face of everyone, and now you have this aspect of Chris Adonis as well, being a part with Eli Drake, and Tyrus is now with Bruce Pritchard as the person that they hired to kind of protect him after EC3 had attacked him. So he has no affiliation with Eli Drake now in any way to go along with it. The match itself I thought was fine. I thought it was a fine match, and I guess they're playing off of this. I guess they're going to play off that Eli Drake's going to say that all the judges put the fix in and everything in that sense over the next couple weeks. So we'll see what they end up doing with it. I thought it was a fine segment, but again, with the whole Impact Grand Championship thing, I wish they would just do more than just matches with Moose. That's just how I've always felt. And I'll probably continually say it every single time. I wish they would have an actual number one contenders match, this and this and this, and just things to make it seem like a more viable division other than you have a champion, they always have a match, and they're putting their title on the line every single time. That's just how I feel. That's just how I feel about it. Up next, you had an Allie and Rosemary promo. You had Allie basically talking about how she has no idea why Rosemary helped her and everything in that sense. Rosemary shows up and kind of says, is kind of that person of saying, it's like, yeah, what? She basically had said that, yeah, her family's gone, but Decay is not gone. Basically, in that sense, they are not gone, and they are the protectors, and they're going to protect Allie for the time being because there's so many dangers around Allie at this point in time. So Rosemary is going to help out Allie and be her protector. I guess that's how it seems like they're playing it off. So I guess you're going to have other members of Decay eventually outside, because obviously Abyss is playing Joseph Park right now, and Crazy Steve is gone. So maybe they're going to have new members of Decay or something in that sense, and they're going to help out. I don't know what they're really going to do here with this one. It seems really weird where they're going. Though Rosemary's still playing off the very creepy aspect of everything. And I liked where Decay was going for a while, but we'll see where they go with this. So this actually leads into Allie being in a match next, up against somebody called, her name was Amber Nova. And they build her from the garage. Okay. Interesting place to be billed from, in that sense. Now, for the match itself, this is actually a rather decent match. They are now having Allie, indie name for her was Cherry Bomb. She was actually a rather good indie wrestler, at least as far as I could tell. It seems like they're allowing her to do a little bit more on the move, in her move set and everything in that sense, because now they can play off that she's had training and everything, and they can actually have her do more of her moves. Allie ends out winning the match with a Death Valley Driver, Death Valley Driver type move, and she plays up as the good sport about everything and ends out hugging everyone, like hugging Braxton Sutter, hugging the ref, hugging Amber Nova for no reason whatsoever. But that's where they seem to be going with this. She had nothing with Sienna or Laurel Van Ness or Congo Kong or any of that stuff. None of that happened here. So right before they actually went to the LAX and Veterans of War match, they show JB and they showed Jeremy Borash and Joseph Park basically arriving on a golf cart, and they were kind of arguing with each other. So that plays up a little bit later on. So that was pretty much that segment there. So this does lead into now the LAX and Veterans of War match, and this was for the Global Force Wrestling Tag Team titles. Again, I find that useless. I just find it useless that those tag titles are on the line, especially when they just have the Impact Tag Team titles right there. It's just better. This match, honestly, it was billed as a no disqualification match. Matter of fact, you even have an announcer announce that it's a no disqualification match. So why is LAX distracting the referee every time they want to do something illegal? It was going on throughout the entire match. Like, the referee was distracted. That's when they would do all their attacking and everything in that sense. But it's like, it's a no DQ match. Just do whatever you want. Just go. Just do. And the match itself was not very good, in my opinion. Mainly just because of the aspect that they were working with a stipulation of no disqualification, but they weren't working with a stipulation with no disqualification. If that makes any kind of sense whatsoever. I don't even think that made sense to me right there for a moment. But basically, they would, in order to do their use of weapons, they would always have to have the referee distracted. But it's a no DQ match. In the end, it didn't make sense how they booked this match. I didn't think it came off all that good in my mind. Like in the terms of the other performances and everything, I mean that they were fine there, so the match itself was okay, but you're working a no DQ match, but yet you distract the referee when you're going to use a weapon or when you are all going to get in the ring and just attack. It made no sense. LAX does go over in the end, which I kind of like. I do like LAX, but yeah, this match itself it didn't come off all that well in my mind. It just didn't come off all that well. And we'll see what they decide to go with this. I would assume that's not going to be the end of it for down the road, but we'll see how everything ends up going. Next, you had a Joseph Park and Jeremy Borash interview. They were basically talking, and Jeremy Borash was like saying like he never wanted to get in the ring and everything in that sense. So he was kind of saying how much he was worried about the match, and Joseph Park was like trying to convince him. It's like we're gonna end up training everything in that sense. I like how JB is like, have you lost your mind? And like the argument just continued on throughout that. So like Joseph Park wants to be in the match, but Jeremy Borash doesn't to go along with it. And it was an interesting way of going, and actually kind of logical because, you know, Jeremy Borash never really was technically designed to get in the ring. He was always designed to be a commentator, everything in that sense. Why would he want to get in the ring in any way, shape, or form? And it's just how it came off rather well, and they do have some extra time in there to kind of work it back up to where maybe JB gains some confidence and actually wants to do the match and everything in that sense as well. Up next was Andrew Everett versus Low Ki. This was a good match. I actually liked this match a lot. Good action inside the ring and good storytelling continuing on the story with Sanjay Dutt and Low Ki, because they were playing off of the eye injury that Sanjay Dutt had gotten, and they're playing off as like they're saying most people will say it was an accident, but Sanjay Dutt doesn't believe it. He doesn't believe that was an accident. He felt that was a deliberate thing that he had done to try to get rid of some competition and everything in that sense. And it was some good stuff, good storytelling in that sense from that side. You can definitely tell a Sanjay Dutt Low Ki match is coming up here in the very near future. Assuming whenever he does heal from that eye injury. I know that happened about 6 weeks ago, so I would assume by now it might have healed. I don't know. It takes some time with that sometimes, and it's hard to tell. But otherwise, good match with Andrew Everett and Low Ki. Low Ki going over with the Warrior's Way while Andrew Everett was trying to get back up. He does the double stomp to the back. It looked really good. It looked like it was a very painful spot. So right before the main event, they had this shown a couple times as well. They had Swoggle inside of the crowd, kind of doing different things. They had like he was just around Impact, like with the Impact Wrestling shirt on and everything in that sense, like just around the crowd at any given time. The last one, he was starting the whole "Josh, you suck" chant while they're doing a commentary thing. And Rockstar Spud attacks him from behind. So Rockstar Spud's back. And basically just pays him back. He starts hitting him with a hammer, everything in that sense. He gives him a low blow with a hammer and attacks the knee. And actually, Swoggle was bleeding from the eye as well. Like, they had issues with eye injuries there in that last taping, didn't they? And I guess we're going to continue on with that. I'm not too keen on that storyline, just like I'm not too keen with the whole JB, Josh Matthews thing. And they drag Scott Steiner into that as well. Oh my god. It's definitely an interesting one. So we'll see where they go with that. Not too keen on this storyline, but obviously, or I won't say obviously, but it might lead into something in the Slammiversary as well. And we'll see where they go with everything. So this brings us to the main event of the night, which was EC3 going up against Alberto El Patron. Good cage match. This was really good. A really well done cage match from both sides. The only issue and gripe that I have with it is that they are literally going to be going with this whole unification thing. I know someone may mention in the comments on one of the videos, like unifications incoming and everything in that sense. To me, unification matches with these titles, with the GFW titles and the Impact titles, are completely useless. They serve no real purpose in the match. Those titles themselves serve no purpose. You can create those number one contenders without having that in any way, shape, or form, and it makes it feel like a waste of those titles. They make them like they're completely secondary with everything, because everything is just going to be Impact Wrestling at some point in time. And like I said, it feels useless on that one. But the match itself with Alberto El Patron and EC3, I thought was really good. It was a lot of fun to watch. The ending came with Alberto El Patron on top of the cage, and he did that double stomp move that he had done, where they're hanging themselves on the actual turnbuckle. It makes no sense why this move works. It literally doesn't, but it looked cool from the top of the cage. And then afterwards, he pulls him back into the center of the ring and does a big splash off the ropes to gain the victory, the pinfall and the victory. Really fun cage match. They used the cage well. Lots of teasing of getting out of the cage via climbing over. Good spots, everything in that sense. I thought the match was rather enjoyable. The whole adding the GFW title in there was completely useless, but now Alberto El Patron is the number one contender. Now, even better is that he wasn't even considered number one contender with the GFW World Heavyweight title. Now he's considered number one contender because he beat EC3. It just goes to show again that those titles are literally useless with the GFW titles. They are completely useless in any way, shape, or form. That he had to go through another match to gain the number one contendership from somebody who had already won number one contendership. I'm not a big fan of the GFW titles being around. I'm just not. But overall, it was an alright show. It was an alright show. It was something you had this interesting thing with Allie and Rosemary going on. I wish they would do more with the Impact Grand Championship in the terms of how they do things, other than it just being like a match that happens every week or every other week or however often they have Moose in a match. You have obviously, if other people are enjoying it, you have the JB Josh Matthews stuff. I'm not enjoying that portion of it. I was not a big fan of the no DQ match with LAX and Veterans of War tonight. It was just not booked well in my mind with how they did everything. Though the X Division title match was good. That cage match was good, even though it was for the GFW title to go along with it. But it was a really good match to watch. And we'll see where they go with everything on Impact Wrestling over the next next month really, before they go into Slammiversary in July. So with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys enjoyed everything. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace out. Have a good one.